And be aware, if you need an additional driver, you need to let them know before you leave the car park.
Dear guests, welcome to Brussels Airport. It is now 10 minutes past 10 p.m. local time.
Bye. Today we're going to hit the open road. I just landed at the Brussels International Airport and I'm going to show you how to rent a car for your next European vacation. 15 tips you need to know. So buckle up and let's go. The first thing is shop around. Use websites like Expedia, Booking, Kayak, or rentalcars.com. Aggregate websites where you can compare the prices from different vendors for the dates you want to travel. Do some research there. Also be aware of cookies. Put your browser, your web browser, into incognito mode so it's not tracking all your browsing history, because if you go back hours later or the next day, they up the prices to make you feel nervous, to make you feel agitated, and to make you think you need to book now. Or just be ready to book right away when you begin your browsing. The next option is go direct. Go directly to the rental car websites, Hertz, Europcar, Avis. My preferred one is Sixt. Compare the deals that they have on their home web pages to what you find on those aggregate websites. Be loyal. It's like in the United States with airline programs, frequent flyers on the rental car company's websites. You can sign up and become a member. That means the more you rent from them, like Sixt, Avis, or Europcar, the better bargains you get. You get loyalty discounts, free upgrades, things like free navigations or express pickup when you arrive at the airport. And that's my bit of advice, is be ready, especially in the busy summer months. Have your passport, credit card, and driver's license ready to go. When you're renting in Europe, you need to be aware of an international driver's permit. Now, as a US driver, you don't need it in most places in Europe. And I was just asking there at the Sixt counter, and they explained if you have a driver's license from a country outside of Europe and it's written in Latin characters, not foreign characters they're able to read, then they will rent you a car without an international driver's permit. Now, I find these rules will vary from country to country within Europe and also from the different rental car companies. So you could err on the safe side, and before you travel internationally, pick up an international driver's permit. It costs around $20 US in the United States, and you get that from your local state DMV. A lot of this I already covered in my Italian e-guide. There's a link for that down below in the description. Now we're leaving the airport, and the airport, that's the best place for you to rent a car. Rent from the airport. Avoid renting in the city center or avoid renting at the train stations. Typically the prices are higher there. You'll get your best deals here at the airport. So even if you're staying in the city center and you decide you need a rental car for a few days, sometimes it's best to get a taxi out to the airport and rent from them. Let's talk about car insurance. If you're traveling regularly, internationally, anywhere in the world, I recommend you get an annual hire car, rental car insurance plan. So that way you don't have to deal with the hassle when you're at the counter at the airport renting a car. The company I use, you can do your research and look for some different ones. I use Riverside, or what was known as Quester before. That way I pay one fee, and when I go up to the counter, I just pay for the car. I don't have to calculate in the extra insurance cost. If you don't go that route and you're renting infrequently, then I suggest you do your research on the insurance options when you rent your car in advance. That way when you get there to the airport and you're tired, you'll avoid making a bad decision or buying extra insurance that you just don't need. Now, of note, and what's different here in Europe versus the United States, is that third-party liability insurance is always included with the car. You have to pay extra for the coverage that includes yourself and the damage to the car, but that insurance that covers others if you hit someone else, that's already included always in the cars. When you get to the car, like in the United States, do a once over. See if there are any scratches, any dings that aren't marked already on the paperwork that they give you. If you see some scratches or dings, or if you just want to be on the safe side, go ahead and take a photo or a video of the car before you leave the parking lot with your rental car. Some of this is already covered in the e-guide that I made for Italy, plus other information like how to book hotels and tips on dining and reserving restaurants. As for car reservations, we'll make them as soon as you can, weeks or months out, to get the best bargain possible. Especially in those busy summer months, you may find there's not a car available for the destination you want to go to. So it always pays to book in advance. Now, sometimes you can't. You need to be flexible with your travels. Just know that you're going to have to pay a higher price if you're booking at the last minute. However, with those last minute vacations, sometimes you get the best surprises. Most cars have unlimited mileage, but check to make sure. I've been caught off guard by that a few times. I've rented a car one time that had only 250 kilometers a day and I needed more. Or some have a limit of say 4,000 for the rental period. It's best to go with a car that has unlimited miles. And be aware, if you need an additional driver, you need to let them know before you leave the car park and add them to the policy for the rental car. For my annual hire car insurance, I just email them and let them know in advance the driver's age, their driver's license number, and their name. If you don't have that option, then definitely let them know at the counter. And some places, they can let you add a driver for free. Places like Sixt, I know they charge €9 a day for an additional driver. We just passed a speed camera there, so be careful, because in the United States, you often get state troopers or policemen parked on the side of the road with their speed guns trying to blast you as you drive by, breaking the speed limit, and they'll pull you over. Some places have speeding cameras, but in Europe, it's all speeding cameras. So be on the lookout for those boxes or those units on the side of the road. And moreover, just go the speed limit or below the speed limit and you should be fine. Typically, as we saw today, they'll give you a warning sign before you see the camera, but if you're busy listening to your music or just focused on the vacation to come, you may not be on the lookout for the speed cameras and you may be gifted a little ticket in the mail months later after your trip. What are you going to do about navigation? Now, most upper-end cars will come with a built-in navigation system. Some cars, the rental car companies turn it off and they make you pay a fee to have the navigation system turned on. So be on the lookout for that when you rent your car. But even if they want to charge you when you reserve your car in advance for the navigation, I typically don't pay for it. And most of the times there's navigation in the car. Now, your other option is good old faithful Google Maps, and that's what I'm using right here. Now, if you're going that route, be aware, you need to have battery power, you need to have your phone powered up, and you need to also have internet to supply Google Maps. Now, if you don't have internet, or if you know you're not going to have internet for your trip, the other option, oh, we got to find a parking spot. The other option is an app called maps.me, and that's an offline map app. You need to download the maps before you get to your destination if you're not going to have internet. But that's an offline map app, and it works out great. I used it one time in Cuba. I'm going to put a link to this suction cup mount that's very handy for mounting your phone on the windscreen, and also some USB-C cables that you're going to need to keep your phone charged up. Those links will be down in the description. Thank you. Take care. Much needed coffee break. That was an early flight this morning. We left at 6:10 from Florence, Italy. If you guys are liking this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up down below and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps the video get out to a much larger audience, and so other people can get this valuable information as well. And I want to talk about the petrol, or the gas as we call it in the United States. Most cars go on the full to full policy. That means you rent the car with a full tank of gas and you need to return it with a full tank of gas. Now, some people have variations in this, and also some companies allow you to return it with not a full tank, but you pay the option in advance for the charge if you don't have a full tank when you return the car. I find the best option is just to return it with a full tank of gas. So my pro tip, what I do about 40 kilometers out from the airport or the destination where I'm returning the car, I go ahead and put in the gas. That way I have enough gas. I top it way up where there's gas like almost coming out of the tank. That way I have enough gas to get me to the airport, and that way I'm not panicking when I'm getting close to the airport and I don't see a gas station to fill up the car. Now, see this right here? This reminds me, this is an automatic, this car, but you gotta think in Europe, especially in southern countries like Italy, they still offer mini cars that come with manual transmission and stick shift. It sucks, and you can't drink your coffee while you're driving if you're shifting gears. I always prefer automatic, and if you don't know how to drive a manual transmission car, you definitely want an automatic car. So when you reserve the car, make sure you click that box to get an automatic transmission car. And yes, it costs a little bit more usually for the automatic transmission cars, but it's going to be very important. On the other hand, if you want a manual transmission car, well then don't click that box and get the car with the manual transmission. Save a few coins, that way you're able to stick shift, drive around the curves of Italy, through the passes of France, and just have a blast. Now another issue is border crossing, and that means when you're in Europe, you often drive over borders into other countries. And this is an issue that specifically applies to those non-Schengen countries. If you're traveling to Romania or to Bulgaria, you probably want to let them know. And if during your trip you're traveling across to many other countries, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, you want to let them know. You may have to pay extra for that. However, if you just need to nip across the border for something small here in Belgium, you can quickly go into France and in and out of France in one day, then you don't need to tell them. In that case, I operate on a don't ask, don't tell policy. Now, a whole nother issue and something I advise against in Europe is when you rent a car, avoid at all cost returning that car in a different country. Companies like Europe Car and Sixt will allow you to rent the car, say in Brussels, and return it in Paris. But if you're returning it in a different country from which you rented it, you're going to pay a lot more money. Perfect parking. That can sometimes be tricky in Europe. If you haven't noticed, I got a newsletter out now with all sorts of travel tips and hacks like the ones I've given you today. So you can sign up for that with the link down in the description below. And if you want more, click on this video here next on train travel in Italy. I think you're going to enjoy it.